Have you ever been sitting alone in a perfectly quiet room and you could swear you just heard footsteps? Or, maybe a floorboard creaks and suddenly your heart is completely in your throat? Well, welcome to today's explainer. We're going to be deconstructing the haunting synth-pop track Everything We Almost Saw. It's this absolutely fascinating piece of dark, cinematic music driven by these incredibly intimate, restrained vocals. But more than that, it's literally the perfect roadmap for understanding how our own minds construct the very monsters we fear in the dark. We're going to break down the actual anatomy of fear and see exactly how our imaginations can so quickly become our worst enemies.
And it really starts right here with this lyric from the pre-chorus. Funny how silence starts making its own sounds. It perfectly captures this super creepy universal truth. Actually, psychologists and audiologists know that if you sit in a 0 decibel anechoic chamber, like absolute total silence, your brain craves sensory input so badly that you'll literally start hallucinating. First, you'll hear your own blood pumping, and then completely phantom noises. Our brains don't just power down when it gets quiet. They kick into absolute overdrive. When the brain can't find real sounds, it just invents them. Absolute silence basically becomes a blank canvas for our anxiety.
So, let's get into section 1, seeking out the story.
Because every good ghost story starts with a choice to cross a boundary, right? Our narrators arrive at a house that's defined entirely by its physical decay. We're talking crumbling old walls, shattered glass everywhere, and of course, local legends. It's that classic house people warned you about. The opening verse makes it clear they came specifically looking for a story. They aren't just helpless victims stumbling into danger. They're active participants. By stepping into this space they were explicitly warned to avoid, they're practically priming their brains to be terrified. They are handing their subconscious all the raw material it needs to build a total nightmare. But notice how fast that nervous energy shifts. That initial thrill of looking for a story devolves almost instantly into this shared, totally uneasy laughter. Step 2, you laugh first. Step 3, I laugh too, mostly because you did. This is our first major clue that their emotional states are dangerously intertwined. That laughter, it's not genuine amusement. It's a defense mechanism, plain and simple. It's the human equivalent of whistling past the graveyard, basically trying to use a chuckle as a shield against a really unsettling environment.
Which brings us right to section 2, the architecture of illusion.
As they step deeper inside, we hit the central question of this whole experience. Did we actually see it, or did we just need to? Think about it for a second. When you're pumped full of adrenaline, your body is completely primed for fight or flight. But what happens if you're standing in an empty room and there's absolutely nothing to fight or run away from? The human mind absolutely craves resolution. So, to justify that intense, burning fear it's feeling, it'll simply invent a threat.
For example, a totally mundane discarded knife on the floor covered in flaky rust? By a panicked mind, it's instantly transformed into a blood-stained weapon. This is confirmation bias at its absolute most terrifying, unfolding in real time. Because they're inside this notoriously creepy house, a forgotten tool isn't allowed to just be a tool anymore. It instantly becomes a piece of violent, sinister evidence in the horror story they're writing inside their own heads.
Or take just another heavy coat, hanging forgotten at the end of a dark hall. Suddenly, it's a mysterious woman standing in the shadows. Come on, we've all done this, right? Waking up at 3 a.m. and genuinely believing that pile of laundry on your chair is an intruder. We are evolutionarily hardwired for facial and shape recognition. It's an ancient survival trick to help us spot predators in the wild. But in the dark, that evolutionary advantage totally turns against us. It crafts these vivid, heart-stopping horrors out of absolute nothingness.
So what happens when the house itself starts to feel alive? The lyrics describe this peaking illusion so beautifully. Every shadow learned our names, every doorway changed its shape in their peripheral vision, and every empty room borrowed an imagined face. The environment isn't passive anymore. Through the warped lens of their escalating fear, this inanimate, rotting house has become a conscious, hostile entity. The empty space is now just filled to the brim with their own projected dread.
And this perfectly tees up section 3, the contagion of fear.
Look at how unbelievably fast this psychological panic spreads. Minute 1, there's a nervous chuckle. By minute 10, rapid breathing is completely synchronized. The lyrics hit us with, "Your breathing made mine faster. My fear became yours." Fear is highly physically contagious. They are completely trapped in a feedback loop now. One person's physical symptom of anxiety triggers a matching, slightly elevated response in the other, and it just spirals upward and upward until the panic is a shared, undeniable reality for both of them.
At this point, the actual haunting is completely irrelevant. The house literally stopped needing ghosts. The intense energy these two have brought into the space, this synchronized, amplified terror bouncing off the walls, is more than enough to haunt the house all on its own. They aren't victims of a spooky location anymore. They've become the absolute architects of their own nightmare.
Let's move into Section 4, Meeting Our Inner Monsters.
The lyrics say, "Down below, someone watched through broken bars, thin enough to disappear." It really sounds like they just found the monster in the basement, doesn't it? A frail, shadowy figure staring back at them from some physical cellar. It feels like that ultimate climax of a horror movie where the external threat is finally unmasked. But the song immediately twists this expectation into something way more profound.
Because the monster isn't a physical entity hiding down there in the dark. It's the part of ourselves we locked away years ago. The vocalist delivers this incredible revelation that those broken bars aren't in a basement at all. They are the mental barriers inside our own minds. When we finally strip away all the noisy distractions of daily life and step into the quiet dark, all that trauma, the insecurities, and the baggage we've desperately tried to repress, it finally has the space to surface and stare right back at us.
The final chorus shatters the illusion entirely. Maybe nothing followed us. Maybe nothing chased us. It's this profound moment of clarity where they realize a monster without a human mind to perceive it is, well, nothing at all. The adrenaline breaks. They realize we are the battery that powers the things that go bump in the night. Because maybe every monster just needs someone to imagine it.
Which brings us to the end. Section 5, Daylight and the Truth. Morning brings this harsh, shrinking reality. As the song closes, the vocalist reveals that when daylight came, the house just looked smaller. It's the ultimate sobering truth. Without those deep shadows to hide in, and without the pitch-black darkness for an anxious imagination to project onto, this grand, terrifying, haunted mansion is instantly reduced back to exactly what it always was, just a decaying old structure full of rust, broken glass, and forgotten coats.
And here is the ultimate takeaway of this entire journey. Truth is finite. It is what it is. A coat, a rusty knife, a quiet room. But fear always needs more space than truth. It requires endless mental room to grow. It will aggressively expand to fill whatever empty space you give it, effortlessly inflating minor, mundane details into massive, life-threatening monsters. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to ask yourself, what empty spaces in your own life are you filling with monsters? We all have quiet, uncertain rooms in our minds, whether it's anxiety about the future, our careers, or our relationships. The brilliant lesson from everything we almost saw is learning to recognize when we are the ones providing the shadows and the sounds. The next time your heart starts racing in the metaphorical dark, just stop and ask yourself, is the monster really there, or do you just need someone to imagine it? Thanks for joining me today, and keep questioning the shadows.